The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Now, if you'd like to find out about the programming we have available for you 24/7, 365 on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit www.xzbn.net, and we're coming to you around the world on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and on iHeartRadio. My guest this hour is Cory. She is a filmmaker, futurist, and visionary author of the best-selling books on consciousness and energy healing. As a child and throughout her life, Cory has had numerous otherworldly encounters and experiences which led her to become deeply connected to spirituality, the study of consciousness, and the mechanics of the universe. After teaching energy medicine and consciousness for over a decade, Caroline founded Omnium Media, a conscious-based entertainment and media platform. Her latest documentary film, E.T. Contact, They Are Here, studies the science of contact and otherworldly realities, and has so far won 9 awards, 2 official selections, and various mentions at film festivals across the globe. In addition to writing and producing, Cory has appeared as a guest on supernatural phenomena at major conferences and television shows, including History Channel's popular series, Ancient Aliens. Her website, www.et-contact.com. And Caroline Cory, welcome to the X Zone.
Hey, Rob. Thanks for having me.
All righty. So tell us, what were some of the experiences that you had as a child that led you into this strange and unworldly topic that we talk about all the time?
Yeah. So I had several experiences, but I think the first one, or the most significant one, I guess, is when I was 5 years old. I was just kind of there in the living room with, parents and just people around. And all of a sudden, I saw this kind of energy, a ball of light sort of, that formed just next to me. And I could feel it and see it and sense it and hear it and understand it all at once. It sounds strange, but this is what happened. And I realized that I could perceive the subtle energy, meaning when I tuned into it and I looked at it, I could see little codes and information. It was kind of literally, I was tapping into the consciousness of that energy. So, yeah.
Fascinating. Where did your interest in UFOs come from?
Actually, I wasn't interested in UFOs because my experience started at a very young age with actual beings. And so, just to continue a little bit on that story, once we connected, we started communicating telepathically. And so they kind of told me, and I could see and sense at the same time, that we came from a similar lineage, and I could kind of see from what part of the universe they came from and all sorts of interesting information. But what happened was that led me to ask questions like, wait, what just happened? And how did that work? How was it possible for me to retrieve telepathic messages when obviously at the age of 5, nobody teaches you that?
That's right.
So yeah. And so because of that, I started asking all these questions, and I got interested in beings and how consciousness works and who else is around us in the universe. So that was really more my interest rather than UFOs. And throughout my life, I had different encounters, again, with beings and, telepathically communicating and actually seeing them physically in my physical space. So that was really more my interest. But, more recently, when you talk about non-human entities, then you have to ask the question, okay, well, where did they come from and how did they get here? And this is where the UFO subject obviously links with these experiences. So this is how it kind of all came about. Yeah.
So tell me, where do you think they do come from? And I mean the entities, the spirits, or the extraterrestrials that people are talking about.
Well, actually, they come from, different beings come from different places.
Okay.
There are some that are literally here within our Earth plane space. We don't see them because they're in a different spectrum. They're in a higher or lower, actually, frequency range. So when you're looking at that space, it looks empty, but actually there's a being there. And, that is possible because, for example, animals tune into, they hear certain things, they see certain things that humans can't see or hear. So it is, why is it so, incredible to think that there could be an entity that's there that others cannot see? So it's all about a spectrum, a range of frequency. So some of them are literally here, existing within this Earth space, and we don't see them, but we hear them or we receive telepathic messages from them. And others are actually sending information or sending messages from far away. So let's say, even if they're on the moon or Mars or even another planetary system, if you understand the mechanics of the universe, it's certainly not the technology that we have here on Earth. The information through certain gravitational waves and things like that is transferred instantaneously throughout the universe. And so they could be, sitting on Mars sending messages, and you could be hearing it spontaneously, instantaneously, and you think that, oh, there's somebody in my space, when in fact they're up there. Does that make sense? And so, so it depends what is really happening. And other beings are coming in, literally transporting their bodies, let's say, in a ship, and arriving into our airspace, so to speak, and doing certain things and then leaving. So there are different beings doing different things at different times. Why? It's not just one size fits all,
Okay, so why are there only certain people who recognize the existence of these different beings like yourself, and other people like me say, I don't get it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, first of all, I think everybody is connected to that world, and everybody's capable of tuning into higher frequencies and other frequencies, but we're not taught, like you're saying, in school, nobody tells us. In fact, it's the other way around. If it's something that you don't see, it's not there, doesn't exist, stop doing that.
Your imaginary girlfriend,
Yeah, and that's the end of it. And so, in my case, for example, I didn't share my experiences. So I was kind of keeping everything to myself. And I think that helped me kind of preserve the experience and kind of look into it deeper and have more experiences and kind of add on to it and understand it. So I think that's what happens when you talk about it. Usually people, tell you to stop. And so before you know it, you ignore it and you think it's crazy by the time you're an adult. And I think that's the majority of the people on the earth. That's what you think is not there is actually very much there. We just don't know how it works. And so I think that's what it is, unfortunately.
No disrespect here, but how do I know what you're telling me is real and that they are really there if I myself can't see them?
Absolutely. Well, guess what? I don't know about other people who experience certain things, but I know this is what I did. That's the question that I asked myself.
Okay.
When you have an experience, you don't go, oh, yeah, this is real. The first thing you say is, wait a minute, did that just happen? Am I going crazy here? What if I made it up? And I can guarantee that most people do the same thing. And in fact, you keep kind of pretending that nothing happened. You keep kind of saying it's impossible, because if it was true, then everybody else in the room would have seen it. And so you keep denying it and you keep negating all of that until it becomes ridiculously in your face. So, like, for example, you have validation after validation after validation. So when I was a kid, for example, I could see the subtle energy around a person, and I could tell that what just happened to them. Like, for example, let's say they just lost a parent or something, or I could see that they were sick, or their liver was something like that. So I could look at that energy and kind of understand exactly what was happening. But then when I would go up to them and say, oh, I'm sorry that your parent just died or something, they didn't know. They had never told me. And so that's validation. They'll be like, oh, well, how did you know? And so then when you get a validation over and over and over, then at one point you go, well, then I must be doing something right here. Gotcha. That's how it works. And that's how it happens. You really question yourself for a long time, and you keep looking for validation. And so, because, I wasn't interested in just sharing my experiences just because, because what's the point? I mean, I didn't want to be ridiculed,
Cory, I'm sorry, Caroline, we have to take a commercial break here. Please stand by. By the way, the reason I keep calling you Cory instead of Caroline, a good friend of mine his name is Cory Connaughton. And whenever I see Cory, I think there's Cory again. Anyway, my apologies. I don't mean to be disrespectful to you, so I just thought I'd let you know. But Caroline and I return on the other side of this break. Don't go away. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
You have heard of the X-Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olsen, consummates the lifology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olsen, visit www.bradolsen.com. That's www.bradolsen.com. filmmaker.com. Welcome back to the X Zone. The word for the day, X Zone Nation, is one I just made up. Oomphy. How do you feel today? Oh, I feel oomphy today. How about you? Oh, oomphy dumpy. Oh, well, jeez. Caroline Cory's my special guest this hour, X Zone. One of her websites that we're promoting today is et-contact.com. And for the Consciousness and Energy Medicine Network that Caroline does, carolinecory.com. Why did you choose to make a film about ETs?
Well, actually, the film is not just about ETs. The film is about the contact phenomenon. Because, like I was saying, I had contact experiences since I was 5. I wanted to understand how it all worked, and so I realized that contact happens in many different ways. The way it happened to me, all of a sudden you have a telepathic message, information in your head, you don't know where it came from, and yet you know for sure that you heard something.
The reason I asked you about the ET aspect, because the film is called ET Contact. They are here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And and a lot of it is we are getting messages or we are encountering other beings. And so who are they? And that's the reason why I call it ET contact, because you are actually coming in contact with other intelligences, whether you see them or not. And so that is really what the topic is about. And it ranges from, like I said, those types of non-physical experiences all the way to being abducted, being on a spaceship and seeing the beings with you physically. I mean, it's the whole range. And to me, it's kind of time to try to shed light on these sorts of experiences.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Why do we need to, for those people who don't have the ability to see or understand what's going on with the ETs, for lack of a better word at this point, why is it important?
Because it's real. It's kind of saying there is a phenomenon that is happening around you, that is probably happening to you, and you're not aware. I mean, there is physics and science behind it. In fact, that's what I tried to do in the film, that tells us that you are exchanging energy with other beings, whether they're physical or not. And that is just a natural phenomenon. And so the idea,
but wait a sec. How can you call it a phenomenon if you're saying you know what it is? A phenomenon is a hypothetical situation based on probabilities, but you're saying you know what it is. So how can it be a phenomenon?
Well, it's a phenomenon for this planet. It's still a phenomenon for this planet. And so that's the reason why I'm using this term.
So does that mean it's still unproven, that it's still out there, so to speak?
Yeah, it's becoming proven. I mean, there are only a few scientists that dare to work on this and have and to scientifically prove the existence of this phenomenon. And it's happening. And that these are the types of scientists that I had in the film.
Sure, but why are there only a few scientists if this is such a revolutionary discovery? Why isn't the mainstream science on board?
Yeah, exactly, because mainstream science is based on the fact that you measure only what you can measure and you can see, and you can actually everybody can agree on is real, and everything else is not real. And so, at the same time, I've been working with scientists now for a while because of this film. At the end of the day, a lot of scientists don't agree. I mean, obviously, I'm not the first one to discover that, but you can just read about this. They don't agree on what the nature of consciousness is, what consciousness is in the first place, what reality is, how it works. None of the scientific theories and the science itself cannot prove anything. Honestly, no, they don't all agree across the board. So to me, science is still a theory. And so they're still kind of dabbling into all of this as far as I'm concerned. So that's the reason why. So you try to find those who have arrived to some conclusions, and these are the scientists that I've worked with
now,
that are in the film.
What is your scientific background?
Actually, I am actually a psychologist. I'm not a scientist myself, but because.
So do you have a degree in psychology from a university?
Yeah.
Okay.
From University UT Austin. Yeah.
Where?
So,
I'm sorry, I didn't grab the name of the university.
UT Austin.
Okay.
In Texas.
Yep,
yeah.
Super
and
place.
So, but you don't have to be a scientist to be interested in science. You could be a researcher, you could be a reporter. So that is really the reason why I wanted to introduce the scientific aspect is because like I said, I had these experiences myself,
right.
And I realized that there's thousands and thousands of people around the world who are reporting similar experiences. So I'm interested in understanding how things work, and that is ultimately what science is supposed to be doing. So that is my interest in science, and that's the reason why I wanted to introduce that.
But in today's day and age, with the many problems that are facing the world, for example, the conflict in Syria where people are having chemical weapons used, and then you've got the other countries of the world contemplating what kind of military actions to take, the nuclear growth in North Korea, the homeless, the hungry. Why should we take science and resources away from solving these problems and put them on a hypothetical situation like the ET factor?
Okay, that's I love this question, and thank you for asking this, because
pleasure.
You don't actually realize that what we're talking about here is not ETs and UFOs and things floating in the sky. That's not what my film is about. My film ultimately is about consciousness.
Okay.
How does consciousness work? What is really consciousness? And if you can answer these questions and scientifically validate those topics, those questions, and bring some sort of clarity to how reality works, then you are talking about the much bigger picture. And honestly, all of the questions, all of the topics that you just mentioned, hunger and war and all of that, to me, they exist because nobody understands that we're all part of a much bigger picture, which is a universal consciousness, you see. And so it's kind of hard to make the connection to the everyday person. I assume you don't see the logic with it. But to me, if you understand that as a consciousness, even if you're sitting here and you are emanating a sort of energy, you are contributing, you're collaborating to the overall consciousness of the planet. So you could be harming the planet, you could be helping the planet in many, many different ways, and everything is interconnected. That is the nature and the mechanics of consciousness. And so if everything is interconnected, you don't just get up and go bomb some country or invade some country, because you're actually invading and bombing an aspect of your consciousness. Does that make sense, sort of?
It makes sense in a sense in theory, but in actuality, it's never been proven.
But that's what some of us are working on.
But what happens? What happens at the end of the day? What happens at the end of the day? Wait a sec. Whoa! Hold on here. Slow down here.
Einstein said you cannot.
Never mind what Einstein said. It's what Rob McConnell says on this show that counts.
Not resolve a problem from the that created it.
Listen. What? It's nice to believe in a theory, but at the end of the day, this theory isn't going to pay your bills, your mortgage. It's not going to feed the hunger. It's not going to take care of the sick, and it's not going to, put clothes on people's back and put roofs over their heads.
I totally disagree.
Well, give me proof. Disagree. Give me proof. Prove your case. Prove your case. Prove your case.
Well, I don't need to prove my case, but I can present my case. But
well, you're making these statements.
If you have a higher level of consciousness, you make different choices. So instead of, for example, you say, how am I going to go pay my bill? I have to go and be in a fear mode and go get the first job just to pay my bills. That's the typical way of thinking to resolve your not having money job or paying your bill.
I've never had that problem.
But I'm just saying, as an example. So if you raise your consciousness, if you have a higher level of consciousness, first of all, you may realize that you're not going to just jump on the first job and take it just so that you can pay your bills. You have to understand more who you are, how you can contribute to society, how you can contribute to raising awareness, for example. So you make different choices that are based on altruism, on being more conscious and aware. And so I think that's the reason why understanding consciousness and the bigger picture solves a lot of problem and ends up bringing you the abundance that you need, not necessarily by taking the first job you can find just to pay your bills. Do you see what I mean? That's how it works. And so that's the reason why, for me, raising the consciousness, bringing the bigger picture together, to me, is a lot more relevant to the daily thing. And besides, look what's happening on the planet.
All right, stand by. We've got to take our break. Exonation. Caroline Cory is our guest. www.et-contact.com. The name of the film is E.T. Contact. They're here, even though it's not about ETs. I'm a little biffed about that one myself. We'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. From our broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, to the world and beyond, you're watching the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
AVS Media Demo.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school, training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. And welcome back, everyone. Caroline Cory is our guest. Her website is et-contact.com and carolinecory.com. I guess the problem I have with this entire aspect of energy and so on, that if it is there, why haven't the ancients used it? And if it was used by the ancients, why did it go away?
Well, actually, there's a lot of evidence that it was used by the ancients, and it's still being used today. I think what's happening is that the majority of, the people on the planet have a certain belief system. I mean, just look around. It's very hard to even talk about these sorts of topics without others not taking you seriously, just because the majority of the people don't believe in it or don't know what it is. And so there are a lot of things that even science thought was completely ridiculous in the beginning and eventually became real validated scientific theories and scientific facts. And so, it's kind of like at one point when people thought that the earth was flat, and then it was proven that it wasn't, but you see what I mean? So certain facts aren't necessarily validated at the time that they're talked about or discussed. And so, the fact that a lot of people don't understand what energy is and how it works doesn't mean that it's not there. It doesn't mean that it's not relevant. As far as I'm concerned, I think all of the problems that you mentioned earlier are there because we don't know how to really resolve these problems. We're trying to resolve the problems from the same place. I think, like I said, what's happening is that we have to address the root cause. And to me, the root cause is to address the consciousness behind the problem. And the consciousness behind the problems that are today happening on the earth today is a very low level of awareness. I think that is the problem.
All right. So let's say by some twist of fate, tomorrow morning, Caroline Cory wakes up as the head honcho of planet Earth. How would you change?
What's that mean?
Yeah, the person in charge. The person in charge. Let's say that. Let's bring it down a little smaller. That you wake up tomorrow morning and you're now the president of the United States and you need to make changes. And you sit there with your cabinet and you say, today we're going to do this to change the problems that we have, to fix them. What would you do?
I would address consciousness, how people feel, how people create, how people understand reality. I think it sounds completely, I don't know, maybe unrealistic to you or other listeners, I'm not sure. But to me, again, this is the root cause. And the root cause is not about putting more laws to fix the current laws, but to go back and really address the root cause of violence. Why are people becoming violent? Because they are in need. They're looking for something they don't have.
Yeah, drugs, money,
energy,
right.
Which is energy. And so, I think the moment that we can resolve the energy problem and really have a 0 point technology type of energy that is available to everyone on the planet, I think all of the problems will be resolved. So I think at the root, there is that. So that to me, that would be the first thing that I would pursue, try to create a free energy for the whole planet, not just for me, not just for my commune, not just for my country, this country versus that country, or this nationality versus that nationality. It doesn't make any sense. It's for the whole planet. And I think these are the types of things that I would be doing.
But how are you going to get people to change their beliefs? How are you going to?
I don't have to. I don't have to convince people.
Well, yes,
I just have to show by example.
So how would you show them? How?
Yeah. So for example, instead of trying to make choices, whatever's cheaper and better and easier and makes more money to one group of people, I would try to find a solution that will help the entire planet. So I would try to bring, like I said, a form of energy that would benefit the entire planet, not just one country versus another. And so that's what I would be doing. Instead of convincing them, I would just be showing them. I mean, that I would be doing what I believe will work for an entire planet. There wouldn't be boundaries. I know it sounds so unrealistic, but I think that's what I would be doing. And I think that's the only hope for this planet as far as I'm concerned.
Well, let me ask you something about, you sent us some questions, and I appreciate that. Something that you sent us, abduction stories. How do we know that people are not making it up?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like my story. How do you know that I'm not making it up? I asked that question to myself as well, because I wasn't interested in telling the world what happened to me. It's like, who cares? Why do you care, right? So what happened to me is that because I had these experiences, I started asking questions. How is it possible that one person who's 5 years old has experiences and then continues to have experiences when the next person next door doesn't have them? So when you ask these questions and you, like I said earlier, you have validation after validation after validation, you start to come up with a not just theory but validated information. And then when you have other people and statistics and groups of people from around the world validating more and more and more, so at one point you start to believe. And so now there's also the human aspects, and people want to have attention, and so they'll tell stories. And so some people, I'm sure, just there's good intent and not so good intent. Just look around. That's the human nature. But I think the majority of people who have these types of experiences don't want to be mocked. They don't want to be not taken seriously, just like you're saying. Why should you believe? And so the purpose of people speaking up about these experiences that are very intimate and very confusing even to them is simply to bring up their own truth and perhaps to help others understand the bigger picture here. So even though a few people may have some misguided intent behind it, but I think the majority are very much authentic and honest with their experiences.
Okay, you also have, you talk about the Cosmic Lineage. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so what happened was, as I continued with my research and my understanding, and I kept meeting and communicating with different beings, and also meeting other groups of course, I was teaching. I started teaching and facilitating for different groups all around the world.
What kind of courses were you teaching? What were you teaching?
Also, energy medicine for one, because I realized that when you had that focused intent, you could heal people as well. So there's a whole branch of energy medicine that's now actually being accepted in mainstream medicine. If you read about it a little bit, integrated medicine is now allowing some, thank God, energy medicine to be integrated in mainstream medicine. So anyway, I was teaching that, but also about consciousness. How does it work? How do you raise your vibration? How do you receive a telepathic code? How does it work, etc.? So it's really the mechanics of consciousness and how you can raise your vibration and things like that. I have a massive library on my website. And so I was teaching that, and also because a lot of people were having these experiences, they would come and share their experiences so that everybody else would be helped as well. And so these are the types of classes I was facilitating, workshops and also online.
So I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding. What is the contact then between humanity and the ET humans and their various lineages?
Yeah, exactly. So I was saying that was the original question. So I was saying that as I was facilitating all these groups and meeting hundreds of people from around the world telling us their stories, we start to kind of compare. Okay, so how does my experience with this entity, with this being, with this consciousness different than yours? And why are you, for example, only seeing an angel when this other person is talking to some gray? What is the difference? And so after working with so many people around the world, I realized that a lot of certain people are connecting back with a type of lineage that is really their own. So if you are continuously communicating or interacting with, grays or what have you, or a type of, some of them communicate with a lineage that's called the Arcturians. And so tons of people are reporting, communicating with the Arcturians. So as we look at that, we realize that, well, there's a reason. It's because they come themselves from that same lineage. And so that kind of added an extra interesting point to the fact that we don't all necessarily communicate.
All right, stand by. Caroline, please stand by. We've got to take our final break. Exonation Caroline Cory is our special guest, and we'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world, interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
The new nonfiction book, Razor of Madness, is similar to cult movies like Clockwork Orange, Dragon's Tattoo, or The Other Side of Hell. Wayne Morin Jr. and Thomas Lee Howe will expose widespread and systematic deficiencies in this thought-provoking tell-all novel. Mind control rages among scholars in law schools. Human rights are ignored while thought reform and mental manipulation are accepted practices used as behavior modification. Dr. Louis Jolyon West comes to mind. Media and public scrutiny shows that United States mental hospitals are in fact destructive murder industries. Razor of Madness expose novel details this epidemic through an in-depth professional and personal investigation. For decades, there has been a revolving door policy that still releases killers and pedophiles back into society. The maestro of mind control continues to haunt America to this very day. Razor of Madness is available in paperback or as a downloadable ebook at Amazon.com.
I'm William S. Peckham. If you enjoy a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love my novel, From Out of the Woodwork. It's the story of a young Toronto contractor, Sean Kennedy, who buys derelict homes, guts them, and turns them into multifamily dwellings. Slums just waiting to happen. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, the house fights back. Former owners unexpectedly come out of the woodwork as he starts the destruction. The apparitions come to him when he touches old books, reads hidden letters, rummages through old boxes, finds a locket, or reads a discovered manuscript of a murder mystery. From Out of the Woodwork will take you from 1899 to the horror of the World Trade Center, September 11, 2001. Check out From Out of the Woodwork on my website, www.williamspeckham.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Caroline Cory is our special guest this hour. 2 websites for Caroline. First one is et-contact.com, and the second one for consciousness and energy, carolinecory.com. You know, when people start talking about UFOs, extraterrestrials, energy, and all the other topics within the New Age genre, it seems that all of this became alive with the advent of the Internet, the spreading of all these different types of news. And one of the questions is, how do we know that a lot of these stories are real, since there's no vetting on the Internet? People can put whatever they want there. So I guess the biggest problem that I see is credibility. So how do we separate the wheat from the chaff?
Yeah, that's a good question. But I mean, before the internet, there was a lot of books too being written. But I think the internet just brought all these stories together, I guess, and connected people together. And I totally understand your position and your, the question: why should we take it seriously, and why, and how do we know this is credible, especially with all the fake news and all that stuff that's happening. Sure. Yeah, but again, I mean, I said that before, but I think because you are not an experiencer, it may be hard for you to understand this or realize this. But like when people tell a story and risk even their jobs, they're now very credible people telling stories like that, politicians, doctors, scientists, speaking of which, lawyers, I mean, who risk really losing credibility in their own profession. So when these people start sharing stories about UFOs, I mean, they're not doing it lightly. And they're not doing it just to get attention. They already have a career. They already have things happening in their life. The only reason they're doing it is to help bring some answer, or at least pose the questions that are out there. Is it possible? What just happened? Okay, I'm not crazy. I'm an educated person, And so I think that is what makes this credible, is that there are a lot of credible people telling their stories for not necessarily to just get attention, And I think after a while you start to discern, you could tell if you read a story that's completely kind of out there and the person has no sort of background or what have you. I mean, at one point you start to discern yourself. But to me, there's a lot of credible people out there these days talking about these things if you look carefully. There's doctors who have NDE experiences, surgeons who have NDE experiences, who are operating on someone. All of a sudden, they find themselves somewhere. They're meeting a deceased grandparent and an angel and an extraterrestrial and come back. I mean, what's all this about,
Well, as somebody who's studied psychology, you should know that the mind can fill in the blanks with what it wants or what it needs to see in that. And we know for a fact that many people who claim to have deathbed visitations it's just a matter of the death process. We know this. So why do we need to inject a new way of thinking? Is it all a matter of, the old is passé, so let's throw in something new. Let's talk about angels. Let's talk about me. Like there's so much bull crap out there.
Yeah. First of all, there's nothing new. This is not new. I mean, people have been talking about seeing things in the sky they don't understand from like ancient civilizations talk about that. If you do a little bit of research, they talk about angels, even, obviously in the Bible and all those, manuscripts and stuff like that. So there's nothing new. I think what's new is that people now are coming together and talking about it. And so there's a lot of resistance and confusion, but it's not a new phenomenon. And it's not, also just going back to something you mentioned, it's not deathbed experiences. I was talking about NDE when it's a near-death experience, meaning your brain dead, meaning it is impossible for the brain to generate an experience. That's what it means.
Well, wait a sec. Whoa. How can you say How can you say it's impossible for the brain to create an experience?
When you are brain dead, there is no signals coming out of your brain, and so that's why this is puzzling a lot of medical folks and the surgeons, because it's not that the heart stops for a while and then they come back or they're in a coma. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about being brain dead, meaning the brain is not capable of creating any sort of electrical signal or any sort of experience.
Right.
And so when that happens in those cases and the person comes back and tells you exactly what happened in the operating room, then you ask the question, wait a minute, well, you were brain dead, for 10 minutes. How are you able to see these things? How are you able to have these experiences? So these are the experiences that I'm talking about. So not just the fact that you can imagine things. Not that's not possible also, but
sure.
It's a different thing. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. At the end of the day, how's this going to make a difference in anybody's life?
Again, everybody has a different purpose. There are people who feel their mission is to go to Syria right now and to help resolve some problems on the ground. Some people feel that they're compelled to give money to charity. Everybody you feel that you want to have a radio show and enlighten people or whatever, communicate your message. Everybody has a mission. There are a lot of us that work on raising consciousness, meaning bring information to this planet that people are having a hard time with, obviously, and to bring some answers to the bigger questions. And so this is what I'm working towards, in teaching and doing all these workshops and writing books and now doing films as well. And many, like I said, some scientists, some writers, some researchers, we are working towards that other bigger picture goal. And part of that is to understand who you are as a being, as a human. How does your consciousness work? How does it interact? What is reality? Why does your reality suck right now? Not yours, but, why do we have suffering? And so on and so forth.
So
consciousness, yeah.
Is consciousness trying to replace religion?
Not at all. Religion is, to me, is a man-made kind of organized protocol to answer some question.
And yet
we're
those who
talking
believe
about the physics of reality.
Wait a second. Hold on. Yeah. Because, you said man-made. And what you're talking to me about right now is also man-made because it cannot be proven. Just not unlike the people who believe in a God, that God cannot be proven. So for you to say it's man-made and then say that your belief system of consciousness is real, to me that's a slap in the face to the people who believe in God.
No, not at all. I didn't say I'm not. You told me, is this a new religion? And I said, no, it's a different thing.
What I said
I'm talking about, and in fact.
No, what I said was, is consciousness going to try to replace religion?
Sorry?
I said, what I was asking is consciousness going to try to replace religion? That's what I said.
No, I don't think so. I think it's a different thing. We are answering questions about the physics and the mechanics of the universe, of existence, the mechanics. We're not talking about divinity or how you were created. I mean, this is part of the question, perhaps. But consciousness is more about the mechanics of reality, how everything works together. That's what we're working on, and these are the types of questions we're trying to answer.
But once again, at the end of the day, what kind of, how's it going to change the hungry? How's it going to change the needy? How's it going to change the wars? At the end of the day, what are the changes? So why spend so much time on the what-if factor instead of doing something that would have immediate results and make a change in a person's life today?
I think we keep repeating the same thing, but because I think the core of the problems that you just mentioned, the hunger, is consciousness. People don't understand.
You're right.
That they need to raise consciousness to abolish hunger. Before, it's not about giving money to the poor. Obviously, it's a much bigger picture. But like I said, some people feel compelled to just put food together and give the food to the people.
All right, Cory, we've run out of time for tonight. I want to thank you for joining us. Exo Nation, Caroline Cory was our guest. She's kind of confusing because she doesn't come up for air. Trying to get a word in edgewise with her is quite impossible. That's why I had to mute a number of times so I could get a few points, and I disagree with her 100%. The next time you're down out somewhere and you see a person who's hungry or a person who's sick, say, you know what your problem is? We need to raise your level of consciousness. And how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to go to this website. We're going to find out what these woo-woos are talking about, and we'll take it from there. All right, this is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Whatever you do, don't go away. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olsen, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olsen, visit www.bradolsen.com. That's www.bradolsen.com. Are you or is someone you know struggling with addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, grief, success, and prosperity? Do you know that your subconscious belief plays a big role in the outcome of your hard work? We can help you permanently change the beliefs that may be the reason for your struggles and failures. We care about getting you the return on your investment and the results you are looking for. We can help you be free of the limitations of your past and in realizing your highest potential. We work with people by phone and Skype. For more information, visit us at www.ritasoman.com. That's www.ritasoman.com. Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464.